We'll have our photos. Great. Okay, so yeah, so we'll have time for Q&A, and this session is being recorded, so you can go back and watch it later, share it with your friends and family. If you have questions throughout the presentation, just go ahead and drop those in the, I think we're going to use the questions tab in your little control panel, your GoToWebinar control panel. So drop them in there, and then we'll have those queued up and ready for our Q&A portion. Okay, so kicking off, kicking off then. Let's talk a little bit about kind of ETQ, the company, and kind of where we're coming from. So we all know concerns of quality are really the concerns of the business at large, and there's more pressure than ever to overcome, the challenges that we kind of laid out here on the slide. Manufacturing companies often struggle, and maybe your company struggles with siloed systems and manual processes for tracking quality issues and compliance. And of course that causes things like duplication of work, reduced productivity, incomplete or just non-existent data for reporting and corrective action management. And that can just lead to awful things like high field failure rates and those costs of dealing with things once they're already fielded, and just a myriad of risks. You're feeling the pain if your suppliers can't deliver consistent quality on time. Thought of an audit is keeping you up at night. You're consistently caught off guard by quality issues or just simply not aware of problems that need solving. You can't quantify your costs of quality. You're trying to manage your quality system with spreadsheets and access databases, and we hear that all the time. So you're not alone. So with a solution like ETQ Reliance, you can take the first steps to centralizing and digitalizing your quality processes, and then connecting those processes using automations that kind of alleviate all those administrative burdens that you may be feeling right now with a manual or like paper-based type system. And then proactively start to shift your efforts to the left, and that is putting the controls in place to identify quality issues sooner, resolve them faster, and support a culture of continual improvement. It really does take an enterprise-grade QMS solution to build and manage a truly closed-loop quality ecosystem. Automating those feedback loops all along that product life cycle allows you to do things like identify and engage stakeholders within all of those processes, gaining not only their knowledge and insights, but also holding them accountable to their role in the process. Allows you to enable more precise root cause analysis, answering things like how common and costly is a problem at any given stage. You can also better measure effectiveness of change. So being able to follow up on corrective actions and making sure what you've implemented is actually working and taking hold and improving things. And then back to this kind of centralizing and harmonizing your total quality program across all of your sites. So we conducted, it's been a little while ago, but we conducted a customer benchmark study to find out how and where customers were really benefiting the most from having a solution like ETQ Reliance as part of their business operations tech stack. And the results of this study, plus the countless customer interactions we've had over the decades, represent the positive impact your teams can have on the top and bottom line through a focus on quality systems. So from improving decision velocity, our customer AMD was able to centralize their quality data and better analyze that information, and that ultimately delivered better results for them, saving hundreds of staff hours per week. They were able to really hone in on where the issues were. Improving efficiency is a huge one. Our customer Ecolab consolidated quality processes across 170 countries. So that's that idea of just harmonizing globally. Another customer, Cooper Tire, cut its audit administration time by 80%. So being able to better prepare for an audit situation really makes more efficient use of everyone's time. Optimizing suppliers, this is a huge one. Our customer trained technologies was able to reduce scrap and rework by 32% because the quality of what they were receiving from their suppliers, they made so much improvement there. It reduced their in-house work. Ultimately, reducing warranty costs, this idea of moving things to the left, you address it further upstream, it's really going to make an impact at the end once things get into customer hands. And they were really able to make huge strides in bringing suppliers into the quality, into their quality processes, and engage suppliers to deliver more consistently. Reducing costs of poor quality. This is the one I think probably resonates the most with customers, and really fantastic customer Wabtec they went through a huge turnaround with improving not only supplier quality, but which helped with their costs, but just their general program, able to cut cost of poor quality. First of all, quantify that, and then recognize that they had cut cost of poor quality by 15%. Reducing their tooling costs, not having to retool things to rework product, and added millions in productivity gains over the course of a decade and continuing to do so. Accelerating time to market, so bringing products to market faster. In a similar vein of improving efficiency, our customer Kimberly Clark, they had hundreds of different systems kind of throughout their organization, and went through the process to consolidate over 600 separate systems, which really made their processes so much more efficient, giving them 80% faster time to market. And these 5 pillars really drive everything for us at ETQ. So from developing the ETQ Reliance product roadmap to helping customers build a procurement business case, so procuring the software, to guiding customers along their quality journey and helping them prioritize where they can make the most impact next. We can always kind of refer to these benchmarks and feel confident that these are key metrics to go after as you're building your quality program. So with ETQ, you are in good company. We stand out as a vendor that can provide versatility to adapt to the needs and requirements of any industry. And you're going to see some of that flexibility and configurability of the system when Tom comes on. We serve hundreds of customers across heavy manufacturing, food and beverage, automotive, electronics, life sciences, and more. And companies with kind of varying levels of complexity, company size, quality management maturity. We've kind of seen it all. We apply learnings and best practices from across all of these industries to provide a unique value to you as you expand your quality journey with ETQ. So when you choose us, you're also gaining a trusted partner with a proven track record of success. And we've got across our team, you've got access to a wealth of expertise and resources to help you succeed with your quality program in your specific industry. So just to kind of wrap up here with the intro, so why should you continue to listen to us? So I mentioned, decades. For over 30 years, ETQ has been empowering quality champions to use quality management as a catalyst for business success. We aim to be that trusted advisor and help guide you along your quality journey, from making that business case to project planning to onboarding and beyond. And we are part of Hexagon. If you're not familiar, they are a global company, a global leader in sensor, software, and autonomous manufacturing solutions. So we have a lot of kind of beyond quality management. We've got solutions that we can expand into manufacturing operations as well. Okay, so that's enough from me. At this point, I'm going to hand it over to Tom, and he's going to introduce you to the platform and provide the demo. So here we go, handing that off to you, Tom. Give me 2 shakes here to, well, a little pop-up is hiding itself. Okay.
Let's see. Can we see
Looks
this screen
great.
now?
Yep,
Oh,
thank you.
all right. Well, thanks everyone. So as Angela mentioned, I'm just going to give a little bit of an introduction to the platform for those of you that haven't seen it. ETQ Reliance is a web-based, workflow-based business process automation platform that has 42 pre-configured applications that are spread across 9 different application sets that you can choose to acquire and implement based on your own needs. The real star of the show is the platform. It's a very configurable tool. We use a drag and drop designer tool to pre-configure the apps that we package for you to use as a starting point based on our 30 years of best practices experience, which you then can use the same designer to modify the existing apps to meet your own business process requirements, or even build your own additional apps on the platform. And this is all hosted in the cloud. We have a software as a service solution, makes it extremely easy to use. You don't have to maintain anything on the back end. We do it all for you. So as I mentioned, we have these 42 apps. The core applications, which is really the basic tool itself, which is the basic starting level for your initial stage of the workflow process or initial stage of the implementation, are the common compliance management platform applications you would expect: document management, training, audits, corrective action, change management, as well as several utilities, while all sitting on the platform that have a core set of functions, a common set of functions that are applicable to all applications. And then on the top right, over here, these are the different app sets that you could choose to implement later. And they include about an average of 4 applications each. So once again, they all sit on the same platform. They all look and feel the same. They all function exactly the same, extremely easy to use. And there are some core functions, or we call them platform genetics, which I'll talk about in just a few minutes. In fact, I'll talk about it right now. So the real key of our system is the power of the platform. So yes, we do automate all these business processes, but these 6, we call them genetics. They're core platform capabilities that are infused across all of the applications on the platform. And when I say all of the apps, as I just mentioned, you can either use our designer to configure the existing out-of-the-box applications to meet your own specific business process requirements, dragging and dropping new fields onto forms, dragging and dropping new steps into workflows, building in business rules to automate those workflows. But you can also use our system to build your own apps on the platform using the same tool. And even though it's a separate app and it automates a completely different process, it will look and feel just like all the other apps, and it will share the same 6 common platform genetics. So I've already discussed adaptability, which is the high level of configurability. The system is designed to be configured without programming to allow non-technical administrators to manage our system. You're not developing anything, you're not customizing anything, which in other words, it means breaking it. You're not modifying the core tool just to accommodate a business process change or a requirement that you can't comply with most other systems. Our system is highly configurable so that you can adapt to your process requirements, whether they're needs now or unanticipated needs in the future. Our system is basically future-proof because it allows you to change and modify the system to adapt to your requirements. Connectivity refers to the relationships between processes on the platform. As I mentioned, we have 42 applications available, but we don't just have 42 separate silos that really just work in a little vacuum. There's connectivity between the processes, the ability to launch one process from another. An issue comes in, you can track it. If you want to do a risk assessment, you can click a button and do that, and then click another button and launch a corrective action, which is a separate process, but they are linked together and it inherits information from one process to another. So it's the seamless ecosystem of processes that coexist together that our system is really, really good at. In addition, the next question might be, well, that's great, but what if we have existing systems? So, well, Hexagon is a great example. A lot of plant floor solutions that are capturing data, information that's going on, very good at tracking issues, but then what do you do with that issue? Well, through an integration with any of those tools, we can launch a non-conformance report and track it within our system, and we'll talk about that in a moment. I have a story with a kind of a process overview slide that can discuss it. Or integration with your existing ERP, enterprise resource planning, or customer relationship management tools, or your HR systems. You have thousands of employees, let's say. and someone else is managing those people as they come and go and move to different roles. I wouldn't want to have to be the administrator that manages that within our system to just mirror what they do and also probably not quite get it right. So our strategy would be to integrate with that existing system so we can leverage the information that is in other systems, as well as trigger records in other systems to happen. And we'll talk about that in a minute as well. Contextual awareness. If you think about a larger organization, it could be very small as well. The structure, you might have different business units, you might have different facilities, you might have similar lines of business or very different lines of business. One of the challenges that organizations often face is implementing a system across the organization that everyone can use, because a lot of other systems require what's called standardization. Standardization means that everybody does everything the same way. Everyone has to, quote unquote, swallow the pill. In other words, they don't necessarily agree with it, but they do it because they have to. With our system, you can set up your organizational structure in a hierarchy, defining the organization, business units, different levels, different branches. That field, it's called the location field, it exists on all records in the system. And then that same field exists on the user profile. So when someone logs into the system, it knows where they are. And then therefore the system A knows which processes that are applicable to them. It also knows which records they're allowed to see, because not everybody can see everybody else's stuff if you don't want them to. And it also allows you to have differences in the process itself. We allow what's called harmonization in our platform, which is the antithesis to standardization. As I just mentioned, standardization means that everybody has to do everything exactly the same way. And there are three end results of that standardization requirement in many cases. The first one is that everyone gets in the room, they can't agree, so they end up with a dumbed down process that's implemented. They have less fields than they need to capture. They don't have all the business processes captured. It's a very watered down version, which means that you have rich information that you're not capturing. The other side of that would be a very overly complex process where you try to incorporate everyone's requirements into the same system. So some parts are applicable to some people and some parts are not. There are some fields that people may need to fill out, but some may not. But it's not clear, and therefore it's confusing and cumbersome and unwieldy for those users. And then the thing that also usually happens as a result of this is that instead of coming to an agreement, you just throw in the towel and say each group is going to implement the same system differently. So you have different instances of the same system, and therefore you lose the richness of corporate reporting and analytics and all the capabilities that are available in a harmonized platform like ETQ Reliance. So what ETQ Reliance allows you to do is to harmonize across the entire organization, where 60%, and this is just a hypothetical example, 60% of the form may be the same for everybody. They fill in the same fields with the same category options, which could be localized in different languages, by the way, but they're still capturing the same details. And therefore, once the data is entered initially, it's available for global roll-up reporting and analytics without having to manually combine information, massage the data. I'm sure a lot of people are familiar with what takes place when you have disparate systems. So instead of having a disparate set of systems that never talk to each other and then a manual effort that goes into reporting every single time, you have a global harmonized platform that accounts for everyone's requirements and needs, captures them, and it also pulls that data into one common place. So contextual awareness as a concept is extremely powerful. And we've had a lot of experience with very large and small companies, but especially the larger companies. From those larger companies, we've learned a lot of information about how to do this, and we've incorporated it right into the platform. Now, what's interesting about that, we discussed earlier, and when I say we, I guess I mean me, because I'm just sitting here kind of, if you've ever done a webinar, it's kind of weird because you're talking to yourself and, you know, it feels different. You get used to it though.
I'm here
But
for you,
anyway,
Tom. I'm
I
listening.
appreciate that. And you're my emotional thread here. You know, you're the
Okay.
my only cling to reality in this situation. So anyway, so the contextual awareness functionality, I mentioned earlier that our system is hosted in the cloud, which means that it's not behind your firewall, although it's highly secure, but that allows you to do the fifth genetic, which is external collaboration. You may need to incorporate people outside of your organization, like suppliers, like contractors, other people that are crucial to the QMS and the compliance management platform that our system allows you to manage. And you can literally set them up as users, and using the same functionality from the contextual awareness that we just described, the filtering, the different processes that they can access, but limited to only what you allow them to see. This allows you to incorporate external users into your processes. You can send them supplier corrective actions. You can involve them in change management, deviation process, document management, training management, verifying that they are aware of documents that you created and just recently revised. So it opens up a whole door for breaking down barriers and eliminating a tremendous amount of administrative effort that often takes place with manual emails and phone calls, and also clear visibility and transparency into what's going on, who's assigned to what, when is it due. And of course, workflow has things like reminders that start to send reminders. So imagine a world where you can assign something to your supplier with a due date in 3 weeks, and the system like ours that's workflow based will automatically know that something is assigned to that supplier with a certain due date, and will start to send reminders to them. And then only level 2 of escalation might go to the person and their manager. And then anywhere access means that not only can you access our system from browsers on your laptop or desktop, but you can also use the browsers on your tablet to access the same interface as your web version on your laptop or desktop. And on top of that, we have a companion application for Apple and Android devices that you can use on your tablet or on your phones, which also has additional offline functionality. So the idea of anywhere access means that you can take your compliance management system anywhere you need to go and use it anytime. So I know I took a few minutes on this, and I appreciate your forbearance in this case, because this really is the key differentiators with ETQ Reliance versus anything else that we've seen out there for compliance management. It becomes the single source of the truth across the entire enterprise, which could also be extended to external parties like suppliers and contractors. We've never seen anything quite like that. Now this diagram, I'm not going to go through every single box, but the blue boxes, the dark ones, are individual processes on our platform or applications. They all connect to each other, so we talked about the connectivity. So for example, if, let's say, a hexagon metrology tool on the plant floor is doing inspections at a high volume, and it identifies an out-of-spec situation, it could automatically trigger a non-conformance report in our system, which then has its own workflow for disposition, et cetera. That could trigger a SCAR that goes right to your supplier, and then internally, it could go right through the whole corrective action process. And I'm not going to, once again, go into a lot of detail because I'm going to show you an example of this in the system, but it could go to a corrective action, which has action items that have to be assigned and tracked, which can then track other things. So the idea here, and I'm being brief on purpose, and Angela's probably surprised I'm going to go through this slide so quickly, but really the idea is that any sort of an issue, whether it's an audit finding or customer complaint or whatever it might be, could then be fed into the same evaluation or investigation process. We call it a quality event, which can then go through the corrective action process. There's a very robust workflow in here for root cause analysis, action planning, et cetera. And then that could trigger individual task-based action items, which we would use workflow to assign and track and manage the completion of. And then when something gets done, we actually can link to the objective evidence, which documents were actually revised as a result of this corrective action, which came from this audit finding, which trainings had to be done to verify that people that were associated with these documents were trained on any changes to those documents. So that's what we refer to as a couple of things: the connected quality, which is the connection to the plant floor. We also have the closed loop quality. Sorry, I just drew a blank. So closed loop means that you have linking all the way from the issue all the way through to every step of the process that was done to remediate the issue, evaluate the problem, and then take full corrective action for continuous improvement. So that is the introduction to the tool. And what I will do right now is, as I mentioned, I'm gonna show you an example of someone getting assigned a non-conformance report, and then that could go to a supplier corrective action, which could then go into a corrective action and whatnot. I'm not going to spend a lot of time at this point doing this because we can certainly talk offline. This is the home page of the system. So this is what a user would see when they're assigned something. So I mentioned the non-conformance report. I can see that that non-conformance report that I was just referring to is sitting right here. But the other thing that I meant to show first is the assignment email that came from the system automatically. So for any of our 42 apps, which are workflow based, whenever something is assigned to someone or a group, it sends an assignment email that looks very similar to this. It tells you what it is, it tells you where it is in the workflow or the current step, the due date, the record number, any details from the form, a description of the problem could even be incorporated, and then there's a hyperlink to the record in question. So even if I'm not logged into my system, and even if I'm not at my desk, I would receive an assignment that looks very similar to this. Even if I'm a supplier, by the way, or an external party using external collaboration, more importantly, they would also receive an assignment that looks just like this. The second way that any workflow has to let somebody know that something is assigned is it shows up here on their list of assignments. So this is a global list of everything I have to do across the entire QMS. Because it's a demo data set, a lot of things are overdue and they sit here for a long time. But this one, for example, is due tomorrow. Once again, the email would have brought me here. I can see it here. I can also see it on my calendar. And then the due date is also tracked using our escalation management tool, so that as the due date approaches, the system will start to send reminders initially to me, and then a few days later to me and my manager, and then there's even a third level of escalation. This is what a typical record looks like in our system. It's got workflow at the top. It's got sections on the form that I can go to see different sections. I'm not going to go through every field on the form, but keep in mind that this is our pre-configured out-of-the-box, what we package for you to start with. But all of this that you're seeing can be configured very easily by a non-technical administrator using our drag and drop designer tool. We have 20 field types, drag and drop new fields onto the form, create new sections on the form, built-in business rules to define which sections or fields are visible, and this is part of the harmonization strategy. So in other words, it's a common form. 60% of the fields on here may be used by everybody, but then there may be nuances of differences that are needed. So whether it's people entering values on a form, the field values that would change what's visible or not, or the location where the user was, that would then dictate what they can see and what they can't see. So it allows you to have a common form that's used by everybody, showing and hiding strategically different parts of the form. This is tied into different processes. So for example, here's the product information, here's a picture of the problem, here's a supplier corrective action that's linked in, and the supplier actually has a separate assignment and a home page that I could show you. This is a fictitious supplier named Joe Smith, which shows how unimaginative I am when it comes to making up usernames. Well, here's a risk assessment, and here's a link to the corrective action. So once again, I didn't want to spend a lot of time in this demo, just to give you a really high level. So we have the ability to have corrective action. This one's in the root cause analysis step. You can use one of the templates for root cause analysis that we provide, and then you can propose an action plan where you might have different actions that have to be done by different people. Once the action plan gets approved and it goes to the implementation step, the system would then automatically trigger a child action item for each of these actions, assigning it to this person, making it due on a certain date, and providing a link to it right here. So that's the one thing. The other thing, since this is a high-level overview that I'll point out at this point, I've already discussed the idea of the home page. We do have several reporting tools available to allow you to do this trend and analyze and determine the status of things. This is the built-in centralized reporting utility that comes with the platform, where I can click and start to drill down to individual records behind it. We also have a tool called ETQ Insights, which is a trending and analytics tool. I'm not going to take the time to pull that up, but it really provides you the ability to have more detailed dashboards that pull data from different places within our system to do analytics and reporting and process analytics and things like that. Think Power BI or Tableau, something similar to that. And in fact, if you choose to use Power BI or Tableau as a strategy in the organization, you can use what's called a quality data lake, which is available for ETQ Reliance. So all the data in our transactional system is ported into a set of tables that's available for your analytics and reporting tool, whether it's the Insights dashboards and or using your own third-party tool to point to that information. One last thing I'd like to do, just to close the story here, is I'm going to log in as Joe Smith, because Joe Smith, as a supplier, would have their own little home page. And I do this every single time. I can't talk and type at the same time, but that's okay. So remember, he would have received an assignment email. This is a very simple home page that's limited to only information that Joe can see. Here's that SCAR that's assigned to him. He can click on it. He can see it on his calendar. He can also have access to certain information. So users can personalize their experience and say, hey, I want to participate in these processes. Joe may want to initiate a change request or initiate a deviation if they identify a problem that they don't want to ship to you yet because they want to get your approval first. Or what you can do is you can allow them to see things like, I want to look at the current rating of all the products and services that I provide to you. So we have a whole supply chain quality set of applications that lets you analyze and track every product and service, which funnels the data, the receipt data, the on-time data, the non-conformances, the audit findings, anything else for that supplier could be funneled into the supplier rating application to rate every single product and service that they provide to you. So that's a quick look at the system. Angela, do you want to take over again?
I think I'm going to leave you in the driver's seat,
Okay,
if you don't mind.
not
If
at
you want
all.
to pull
Let's
the.
do this.
And
Sure.
actually, we do have one question that's come through in the question chat.
Okay.
I think we can knock this one out. Is it possible to generate readable versions, like PDFs of nonconformances, CAPAs, et cetera, for submitting to external authorities or
Yeah,
notify? Yeah.
that's a good question. And yes, and that actually ties into, part of this answer is going to tie into one of the new features that we just released that we're discussing today, which is the ability to define what's included in that PDF form that you output from our system. So there are two options as far as reporting to, reporting a record outside of our system. The first option, from the form itself, and I'm just opening up an existing corrective action, we have this print to PDF capability where I can actually output this form into a PDF, which is printable. It can be sent outside the system, et cetera, et cetera. So this is the new feature that we just incorporated. We can choose which parts of the form we want to incorporate into this PDF. The defaults to the all tabs, which is going to be all the sections on the form, but you can specify just a specific tab if you want to. And the other thing that our system does is it tracks the comment history, which is tracked over here. You can hide it. So if you want to send it to somebody outside the organization, that internally, that collaboration information that typically tracks the internal discussion around the corrective action would not be visible. And you can also hide the current step or phase of the workflow. So the first option would be to use the print to PDF. And it just was clever and I guess you asked that question on cue, whoever that was, because you must have known it was a new feature that's available. And then the other option is that there's a platform level capability called Microsoft Office integration, where you can have your own form. It could be a Word form with your logo and the format and the fonts and the logos and everything else in Word or Excel, where you can literally, and I'm just going to just show you what this looks like. This is just a generic ETQ one, but what this will do is it will grab a copy of the template. It also will synchronize predefined fields from this form with the attachment. So that's what should come up here. So let me just open it up. And this will actually bring us to another, well, we'll discuss that when we get to the rest of the presentation. So let me just pull this up. It's coming up on my other screen, so I'll need to drag it over. So this is the form, but what you can see here is that each of these fields is actually a field that's being synchronized with the record itself, with this particular corrective action record. So what the template is it's either a Word or Excel document that your administrator has complete control of. They can put it up in the system as needed, and you can map fields from the form in our system to these fields here in Word and or Excel. You can actually map a specific cell in Microsoft Excel with fields in our system as well. So this is often, what people like about this is it's a nicely curated form. It's pretty, in other words, it looks nice. It's got the logo, it's got the format, and it might not be much different than what you might do currently. It might be exactly like your current form. Any more questions, Angela?
That's it so far. So thank you for
Okay.
showing that. Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, great. So I think now we'll transition, kind of staying on the product theme here. Wanted to share with you guys some of the recent enhancements, but we'll start that conversation with a bit of an overview of how we deliver these enhancements. So just wanted to provide a little color around that. So ETQ Reliance NXG is our cloud-based SaaS model offering that Tom has been focused on demonstrating for you guys. And the way this works is we have 3 seasonal releases per year. And because it is hosted in the cloud, it's a subscription as a service licensing model. We automatically deliver those releases to you through at the scheduled dates throughout the year. So that's an automated delivery of any of the new platform features and capabilities, and of course the latest security enhancements. And then we do provide access to an online community where we post all of the relevant documentation for each release, the release notes, the change logs, and any pertinent information for each release. So like I say, they're seasonal, and we can take a look here as an example, the schedule we have for 2024. We have a winter 24 release, which we're right kind of in the middle of. Then we'll have a summer and a fall release. And so there's usually kind of 2 kinds of environments that you will have that are hosted in the cloud. You'll have your non-production environments, and that could be a development or a QA or kind of a validation environment. And then you'll have your production environment, which is where all your users will, it's your live system that all of your users log into and use. So we'll push an update into those non-production environments, and then 6 weeks later, we push into the production environments. And that 6-week window gives you the time to review the release notes, review the change log, and prepare for those changes and prepare your users for those changes, and make any additional configurations that you would like to do that involve these new features that might affect you.
If you
So
don't mind, Angela,
that's
can I jump in? Before we leave this slide, we
yes,
talked about the high degree of configurability of our platform
yeah,
with the designer tool, and this ties right into this discussion, because people think update, oh my word, it's going to change everything that I did.
yeah,
We start from scratch. The unique thing about our platform is that all the configurations that we just discussed, many we do, or most we do pre-configure, but then you can modify them. Those are just settings that sit on top of the platform.
yeah,
You can protect. In fact, when you configure an app, it automatically protects itself from future updates and upgrades. So what we're doing is we're updating the platform with new
yep,
functions and capabilities that we've incorporated, and we have a roadmap and we have plans, and we take customer feedback into consideration for that. But then when we push an update to your non-production environments, it doesn't touch your configurations. Even if you built your own applications with very complex configurations, we're just updating the platform with all the capabilities that are available. And what Angela said, you can review the release notes and the change log to make a determination as to what you may want to incorporate into your own configuration. You have the amount of time between the non-prod and the prod to make those determinations, at which point we have a promotion path which would promote the update as well as configuration changes to the production environment. So it's a very planned process. No surprises are involved. It's designed to be as seamless as possible.
yeah, yep. Thank you for that, Tom. Well
Sure.
said.
Thank you.
Okay, so we'll just take a quick spin through a couple of the latest enhancements, and kind of building on what we can banter on this one if you want, Tom. But this is kind of building on what you were talking about with the Office integration and those template documents. So there may be those of you out there that would need co-editors on a document, more than one editor during a particular phase of the development and approval of a document, and you need multiple people in there contributing to the content, making suggestions. Well, we offer now an integration with Microsoft 365 to create and edit Word documents that are kind of in the background hosted through your company SharePoint site, but accessible through the ETQ Reliance interface and protected by the user access rules that you would configure within Reliance. So really useful, like I say, for folks who want to co-edit documents and work that into their document control processes. So Tom, was there something else we should add here?
Just clarification, it's
Mm-hmm.
completely separate from Office 365. So it's either you use Office 365 in the current conventional method with templates that are available in the system, or you can collaborate using Office 365 or Microsoft 365, allowing multiple people to edit the documents at the same time.
Yeah. Yep.
So
Yep.
it's
And then
very,
we do, from a cloud perspective, we do also support Google Documents as well. So
yes.
if you're a
And this
Google
is,
shop.
we've had a lot of customer feedback requesting this, so we finally are releasing it and we're very excited about it, as are the customers that currently use our system that have been looking forward to this.
And yeah, go ahead, Tom. Sorry.
So this is subtle. So when you log into our system, well, that's basically the key of this feature. Currently, you need to log into our system to be able to create a record. So if someone wants to create a customer complaint record or a non-conformance record like the one that I showed you, unless it's going to be an integration from an existing system like SAP or your ERP system or whatever, you have to log in to create a new record. The way we license our system is concurrently. So you have a certain number of concurrent licenses where a certain number of people can log in at exactly the same time. It's approximately a 10 or 15 to 1 ratio, depending on the role of the users. So a 10 concurrent user license might support 100 to 150 possible users that would log into our system, because typically someone logs in, does what they're supposed to do, and then they log out. They're not just sitting there logged in all day. Long story short, what a depositor is it's just a URL that points to an existing form in our system. So if someone wants to create a customer complaint, instead of logging into the system and creating a record by clicking the new button, the new document button, there could be a URL that you can expose to internal or external people. So you could put a link to this on your website, for example, and start to receive customer complaints or customer feedback where they're actually filling in a Reliance form and then clicking submit, which would then follow whatever the business rules were for the workflow based on the next step to know who to assign it to by group, role, location, or any other criteria that you define. So what this does is it does two things. It allows for anonymous submission of issues. So users that use our safety management apps love this because people want to report a safety potential infraction or something like that, but they don't want to report who they are, but they think it's important enough to report. So this allows them to report anonymously, and it also prevents you from having to purchase more concurrent licenses. So and it easily exposes it to new users. So that's the idea of that particular capability. We're excited about that as well. And then
Yep.
localization, I'll just jump right in since I still had some breath in my mouth from the last comment that I just made.
Okay.
So localization, I alluded to this before when I talked about the ability to support global implementations across the globe, across the world. So our system comes pre-configured in English, and we also provide currently 5 additional languages, and now we're going to support 7 additional languages. So localization means that when someone logs in and defines their locale, it's the same forms, but then there are tags on each of the fields and the keywords. Anything that's pre-configured can be in multiple languages. It can actually support any language, but we are pre-configuring the system in these languages so that it makes it easier to start using it in different places around the world. So that's a really powerful feature if you want to have a global enterprise level system. So that's what that one does. Are you okay if I move on to the next one, Angela, or should we?
Yeah, and just one other quick thing to add here is that this capability is now extended to our ETQ mobile
Yes.
application as well, which I think Tom mentioned a few moments ago.
That's
But
brand new, right? That's brand new for the winter 24 version.
yep.
Excellent. You want to take this one, Angela?
Sure. So speaking of kind of expanding data collection capabilities, we are expanding in further into the shop floor environment, and we're partnering with a company called Augmenteer. They are a connected worker platform solution. So the main idea here is we've created, and Tom during his demonstration talked about our integration capabilities, or ETQ Reliance integration capabilities. So this is another example of that, where we have a package integration with the Augmenteer platform, and that allows us to collect quality issue reports, quality reports from the shop floor directly from a very mobile friendly, shop floor friendly interface um, through Augmenteer, which a shop floor worker would use that platform to do their maintenance inspections, their quality control inspections. Um, it's also their digital work instructions for whatever line they're working. So there's a lot of capability there, but the connection point is that ability to, and like it says here on the slide, really harness that expertise and experience of the frontline worker. First of all, that they have, if they see something, they can say something. So they see an issue right in the flow of their, inspection work, they can create a report, and it automatically creates a quality event within the ETQ Reliance platform, and the appropriate team can then take that issue and, as Tom was describing for you, take it through all the quality processes for, investigation, corrective action, et cetera. And then there's, in the spirit of closed loop quality, as a part of that corrective action flow, you can send action items back into the Augmenteer interface. So back to that frontline worker to say, here's the resolution, here's the action item you need to take to resolve the issue. So it's a really powerful integration that really brings together, um, your quality processes and connecting those to what's happening on the shop floor, and having digital work instructions, the tying into the training environment. So a lot of very interesting use cases there. I'm very excited about this this partnership with Augmenteer.
Absolutely.
Did I miss anything?
No,
Okay.
it was excellent.
Okay.
Excellent. I think we have a few more odds and ends that we wanted to discuss. Am I correct?
Yes, just a couple of things which I'll move quickly because I know we're getting short on time, and we've got a couple more questions, I think, in the chat. So this is just to say, I think, hopefully it's been demonstrated in our time today that, we really can address a full range of your quality management needs. And regardless of kind of where you're at in your quality journey, we can help you, start with the basics and then grow over time. So helping you set up that strong foundation with, the core applications, whether it's like document control, training, audits, change management, getting those fundamentals in place, and then setting you up for success to then expand, and, as Tom described, connect other processes to that core, whether it's non-conformance handling, integrating with other systems. ERP is probably our most popular integration, so making those connections with supplier lists and master keywords, and then developing out your insight, sorry, I say insights because that's the product name, but your analytics, and having visualizations on your data to help make decisions. And then, as Tom described, expanding into your supply chain, bringing your suppliers into your quality processes and making those connections. So we can definitely help you map out the journey that makes the most sense for your organization, and help you really focus in on where you would make the most impact. Kind of back to the top of the presentation, like where can you make the most impact next? And go ahead with the next slide. We just have one or two more here. So in addition to all this software greatness, you're also, by working with ETQ, you've got a ton of resources and wind at your back when it comes to managing the day-to-day and planning for the future. As a customer, you'll have your own account team, a customer success manager that's going to be your day-to-day touch point to answer questions and help you through your journey. We have a ton of resources on what we call ETQ Academy. So it's an online area where we've got all kinds of trainings and certifications to help you and your team get the most out of your ETQ Reliance deployment. And of course, it's online, available 24/7. We've got a very experienced professional services team to help you not only get up and running quickly with your initial deployment, but also provide support after your initial deployment to continue that momentum. And we looked at that quality journey maturity model on the previous slide, so helping you along that journey and with your roadmap planning. We have a number of different options there for support, whether it's project-based or we've got some more kind of subscription, like renewable on an annual basis type support. And then, of course, our not only platform expansion support, but also just the day-to-day technical support from our technical team. So lots of layers of support. You're not alone in the journey. So just wanted to make you all aware of that, and then just taking next steps here. So what can we do at this point? Well, let's start the conversation. We'd love to talk to you about what your needs are and where we may be able to help you in your particular situation. So the best way is to just reach out, and we may reach out to you since you've registered for this webinar, but you can go to etq.com, and there's a big button kind of on the top right of every page that says request a demo, and that's a great way to reach out and raise your hand to start that conversation. And just to give you a sense of how we work, so we'll schedule some time to chat with you and do a deeper dive to better understand your needs. We're going to bring in folks like Tom and other folks from the team who are the product experts to really explore your requirements and all the use cases you're thinking about, and also provide some of that best practice that we've learned over the decades, and make some suggestions and pardon me. So from that information, we'll create a custom demo. So Tom did kind of more of a generic demo today, but we'll craft the demo that's particular to your needs, and bring in all the appropriate people to view that and be able to ask questions, and we'll help you build your business case, because we all know there is a cost to this, and we've got finance teams and senior leadership teams that it needs their stamp of approval for these procurement protocols. So we'll help you build that business case. We'll calculate the ROI and give you a really solid case to take to your team as you move through the procurement process. Okay, so I think that's what we had to talk about. Hopefully this gave you a great view into what it's like to work with ETQ, and a little peek into the product, and hopefully get you visualizing how that might work for you and your organization. And I think at this point we'll take a look, and if Tom, you are able to look at some of the questions here.
I am, and I'm looking at the one about EHS.
Yeah, go for it.
So I staged this to sort of address that question. This was the same slide we looked at before.
Yeah, and sorry for the recording. The question is, how can Reliance help me set up an EHS system?
Excellent. So if you think about it, a compliance management system is a compliance management system. EHS also has requirements for document management, training, audits, corrective action, change management, risk. So the idea is the platform establishes the basics, and there are a lot of common elements that can be shared across quality, environmental, and safety. So we can support all those things. And then there are additional sets of applications, such as the environmental management set of apps that could be added as an application set to the platform, where we have additional things like actually compliance obligations as part of the enterprise risk management, I believe, to identify all your compliance requirements, your compliance tasks, which is another app called task management. We can do things like manage permits, manage other information in this system. So the idea is it's a harmonized platform that not just covers quality, but also can be extended to cover other processes. And it's really, once again, Reliance, it would allow Reliance to be a single place to capture all your issues, all your management system requirements, all your compliance requirements, and track your compliance to those things. So that's, with just a minute or two left, that's all we can touch on at the moment, I think.
Oh, yep. And Michael, reach out if you have more questions.
Yep.
Okay, so next question, where is the data hosted? How would the system work for users in China? Great question.
Yep. So we use Amazon Web Services as our hosting partner, which of course is a very robust tool to manage the hosting of any kind of a system. We would have to get back to you about specifically. I know we have partners in China. We have parts of Hexagon that we work with in Asia Pacific. So we would have to get back to you about how we actually address those particular things.
Yeah, the short answer on China is yes, and we can definitely talk to you in more detail about what the options are. So we'll definitely follow up with you, Jody. I think this was, let's see, it's is that working alongside SPC deviations or some other logic? So I think Rick might be asking.
Yeah. So there's what the scenario that I provided up higher on this. Let me just go back to the slide. Let me just go back to the overview slide here. Hold on. Work with me. We don't have a whole lot of time on this. Come on. Here we go. One more. One more. Two more. There we go. So any other tool that you have that captures data, where you have metrology devices, you have tracking of in compliance or out of compliance or out of spec, it can be any sort of a system that you have. That's our strategy. One of the global genetics that I referred to was integration. We have an open integration strategy where we can integrate with any sort of a tool. It doesn't matter what it is, as long as the database is exposed through web services. So SPC tools capturing inspection results, if an issue occurs, historically, SPC systems are great at capturing problems and identifying them, but they're not so good at identifying what has to happen next and what continuous improvement will take place. So when we talk about the relationship between ETQ and Hexagon, it's taking things from the shop floor and bringing them all the way to the top floor. And that's what a lot of solutions lack, is an enterprise solution. Usually a plant-based SPC tool is just that, it's a plant-based tool. It doesn't tie into the rest of the organization. So this connectivity allows it to connect to the rest of the organization through a global harmonized workflow-based business process automation platform for continuous improvement. So I hope that answers the question. I know we have very limited time, but we certainly would be happy to dialogue more on this if you'd like, offline.
Yep, absolutely. Well, I think that's all the questions for today. Tom, it's a pleasure. And thank you everyone for joining today. Really appreciate you taking the time to be with us on the webinar, and we'll see you next time.
Thanks, everyone.